I think I'll probably vote for Bernie.
So Bernie Sanders tweeted out this video from a new supporter of his that I think is going to have more of an impact than many people realize. Watch.
Who are you going to vote for in the primary?
I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. Him as a human being, when I was hanging out with him, and
Yeah.
I believe in him. I like him. I like him a lot. What Bernie stands for is a guy who, well, look, you could dig up dirt on every single human being that's ever existed if you catch them in their worst moment and you magnify those moments and you cut out everything else and you only display those worst moments. That said, you can't find very many with Bernie. He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life. And that, in and of itself, is a very powerful structure to operate from.
All right. So this support from Joe Rogan speaks to Bernie's authenticity. And this is really why Bernie Sanders is able to appeal to many people that are generally apolitical. Not saying that Rogan's apolitical, but Bernie's ability or Bernie's base is a wide base. People that are younger voters, people that are typical non-voters but working class, people that are independents. Because Bernie has this 40-year record of saying the same thing, you know you can actually trust him to fight for the things that he is fighting for right now. So having this, quasi endorsement from Rogan, it's not like an official endorsement, but clearly he has intention here to vote for Bernie in the California primary. Having support like this is massive. I mean, it's really hard to overestimate how important this is. Rogan will have a bigger impact on voters than the New York Times endorsement does, easily. So the thing with Rogan's audience is that largely, as I was saying, that they are largely apolitical when it comes to these candidates. So again, I mean, I'm generalizing here. Obviously, there are people like me who listen to Rogan's podcast who are very political, but we're speaking about people generally because Rogan's audience is so wide, so massive. It essentially is a representation of people in general, of society in general, people that have busy lives, can't spend every waking hour paying attention to what's happening in this Democratic primary race. So there are people who listen to Rogan's podcast and sort of get bits and pieces about, from politics or cultural issues and sort of absorb that information and take that with them. So when you have Rogan out here saying, I'm going to vote for Bernie, that will have a real world impact on those millions of listeners that Rogan has. I mean, I think his podcast, if it's not the most popular podcast in existence right now, it's in the top 3. I mean, he has a massive audience. So, and really this all stems from Bernie's decision to go on Rogan's podcast over the summer. I mean, that really is one of the more brilliant campaign decisions that the Bernie campaign has made, is going on Rogan's show, because he understood here. Bernie understood this is how you reach out to people. This is how you speak to people who generally aren't into politics, but if they hear you talking to Rogan for an hour and a half, 2 hours, then they'll be able to really get a sense of who you are. Because of the way that Bernie has been smeared, again and again in the mainstream press, a lot of people that, again, generally don't pay attention to politics thought Bernie was, this crazy old man and was saying crazy things and you couldn't take him seriously. But then when he's on Rogan's podcast for 2 hours talking about these issues, I mean, you see the results in the comments. I did a video about this at the time. If you go through the comments on the YouTube page on the Bernie Sanders interview, it is crazy how positive they are. Like post after post after post of people saying, I didn't realize Bernie Sanders was so reasonable. And I'm going to support Bernie now because, I saw him talk about these issues in a way that clearly he's authentic and actually cares about people. So, and also, that is one of the more, that episode of the podcast is one of his more listened to podcasts of all time. So I haven't checked the numbers recently, but we're talking about millions and millions and millions of viewers on YouTube alone. And we don't have the numbers when it comes to iTunes or any other podcast platform. So it's unclear what the reach actually was, but clearly the reach is massive. And it is so smart for the Bernie campaign to take that clip and make, a video, a quasi campaign video about it for social media, because this, again, is going to have a real world impact. And I don't think people quite realize it, but this is what Bernie has above any other candidate in the race. Bernie's ability to reach out to typical non-voters. That is why Sanders is the strongest to go up against Trump in 2020, because Bernie will bring out the people that did not come out in 2016.